Que lo que hay, y'all. So what I'm gonna say is gonna sound a little contradictory, but bear with me. So sometimes those times in life that are full of extreme grief and pain and loss and even trauma can actually lead to unlocking some of the most powerful, sacred, and hidden parts of your soul. For example, a close loved one passing away. I mean, just dealing with death in and of itself is just like an alchemy of the soul you gotta deal with. Or even when you're losing a long-term partner or have to leave a community or country to go somewhere else because of circumstances beyond your control. We spend a lifetime building up these walls of our ego, this fragile little illusion of our identity. When you're on autopilot, it's easy to obsess and fixate on bullshit, just like one-dimensional distractions and desires. But sometimes these traumatic times of loss can just strip away all the artifice of self and identity that we spend years building up. I mean, sometimes that illusion of self can just crack open and light will shine in on some of the most personal and vulnerable and sacred parts of yourself that have never seen the light before. I mean, for example, just a few years back, my father, who I was really close to, he suffered this massive stroke. And I had to spend basically the next year just watching him in a hospital bed as his body and his spirit and his mind faded away in front of me. And my father was a super proud person. And so to see him in that state, just so vulnerable, it just gutted me to my core, though. It was by far the most difficult time of my life. Sin dudas, tú sabes. I was broken to the very core of who I was. I was reduced to rubble. Those times just like uncontrollable sobbing. There was nothing left of me. And at that time, I was blessed to lean on my community, lean on my friends and family, my ceremony, and my orishas. And even though I was raised basically in the Latino patriarchy, I'd never been one of those people to hide my emotions or not cry or any of that bullshit. In fact, I spent my youth writing poems and, songs and I am sensitive. But what I didn't expect is during this time, it opened up some parts of my soul that have never been open before. It unlocked my capacity for empathy, for clarity. All the pointless life stuff that I was always stressing and anxiety and fixating on, it just melted away. And all that was left with me in that moment was the most genuine, the most real, the most authentic, however raw and bare parts of me. I mean, I was even able to remember and access memories and even trauma from my youth that I completely forgotten about, or maybe I just fully repressed it. But in those moments, suddenly things opened up. And this may seem like a silly example, but even listening to a song or looking at a sunset or watching a movie, just the ease of which I can just open up and just cry freely and just be fully present in a moment and absolutely vulnerable was intense. The ease that I could write lyrics and songs that were directly from my core with no bullshit. It was like ice, like lightning. It was a clarity that I hadn't felt possibly ever, honestly. And the truth is, it kind of permanently changed my consciousness from then on. When you run into somebody like a close friend, someone close to them just passed away or they're crying and you feel awkward. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. I'm now completely the opposite. I'm 100% here I'm fully ready to be present and sit there with them and ask some questions what's going on and reflect and be present. Before, that was never the case. I don't know what the hell to say. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're going through one of those times with losses right now, definitely reach out to your community, reach out to your family, therapist, ceremony, whatever practice that you have. But don't repress what you're feeling. Don't push that shit down and give yourself a heart attack for later. Be fully present and engage what's happening with you. Take care of yourself. And I'm not going to say that typical it gets better with time. That toxic positivity shit that people put out. But sometimes in those rawest, hardest, most difficult, bare moments, that it creates the space for leaps of growth that you never had access to before. I mean, you can seriously liberate, unlock parts of yourself that you've never touched. In conclusion, y'all, just take care of yourself. I love you. Ache.